everybody. Welcome back to Dialogues with Derek. I'm your host, Derek, and joining me today is Colin Miller. Colin Miller is a Symbolic World collaborator, he's a craftsman, a bookbinder, and the founder of Sylvan Bookworks. Colin, how are you doing?
Very good. Very good. Glad to be here.
It is a privilege to be with you. I know this is a rare occasion to have you joining me and being able to introduce you to the greater world, virtually at least.
hmm
So
Yeah.
I really appreciate you agreeing to come on and doing this interview.
Yeah. I'm glad to do it. Yeah, I've never really gone on a podcast like this.
Mhm.
So,
Well, you guys, for people that are familiar with your work, you already know that Colin is just a masterful artist, very unique, combines an amazing amount of things. Lately, he's been really involved with binding books in a way that is just incredibly artful. There's an interview, a written interview coming up that kind of dives into more of the journey of your life and leading up to the symbolic world and orthodoxy. And so it's coming up really soon. I can't wait to read it. I I'll just leave it at that. So we're not going to be getting too much into that today. I strongly encourage you to go read that article whenever it comes out. But today I wanted to focus really on the art pieces that you do and Sylvan Bookworks. What goes involved with binding books and putting books together, just from paper materials and all of that. But today is a special day because Colin and I have an announcement of a project that we have been working on for a few months now. Behind the scenes, we've been able to keep it a secret up until now. And so this is the first time that we're going to be talking about the book that we've made for the arrival articles that I've written. So, Colin, I'll turn it over to you.
well, let's see. How much am I allowed to show of the book?
Well, how about this? How about we go ahead and share a little bit now, and then we'll take a few steps back.
Okay.
We'll ask a few other questions. We'll lead up to it, so that way people have a bigger picture of what's been involved with this, and then we'll dive into it in more detail later. So go ahead and, if you would, reveal the book. Go ahead and show them what we've been working on.
Okay. Here it is.
All right. Yeah, go ahead and hold it up. Let's see it.
Is there's actually glass in
Yes.
the cover.
Yeah, man, that is fantastic. So, folks, the article that I wrote for the Symbolic World 2 years ago, titled Arrival and Exodus, we decided to put this into a book. And this is the book that Colin is holding up. For people that are listening to the audio, how would you describe it, Colin?
Well, if you're familiar with the film, the where there's aliens behind and the way they meet with the humans and communicate, they do it through this a pane of glass. The aliens, their language produced with like almost like squid ink, kind of like in the
Mhm.
air, and that's their written language basically. I kind of took the idea of looking through glass at their language, and I incorporated that into the cover, and
Yeah.
which has there's glass, and then there's this, and then the logogram is there.
Yeah,
But
that is
it's on the middle
awesome.
there, and the like the tracing paper, vellum kind of paper, um, that is like the cloud that they're seeing through.
Yeah.
So,
All right, Colin. Yeah, that just looks fantastic. I love how you incorporated features of the film. And it's just amazing. I haven't been able to hold it in my hands personally yet. This is
mhm.
the first time that I've actually been able to see it myself, at least over the webcam. And I
Mhm.
just am so thrilled with how it's turning out. I can't wait to hold it. And the
Yes.
other big announcement is that we are going to be bringing this book to Florida for the Symbolic World Summit. So if you haven't already, I think they might have a few more tickets. Go out there, get some tickets. come see us, say hi, and be able to hold the book for the first time. Now, this book is a prototype, and so
Mhm.
we're not going to be doing a full release at the 29th of February, but you will get a chance to hold it and see it in person, in the flesh, be able to thumb through it, open the pages, and just be able to appreciate the work that Colin put into it. And really, this is just a sample of things to come. The other cool thing is I just finished article number 2, or will become chapter number 2, in a bigger book that'll be about 8 chapters. Several of those will be long articles for Symbolic World. So stay tuned for that. It's coming up real soon. And stay tuned for the other articles as they come out. Engage with it, send comments, feedback, questions, all of that. I'm really trying to make this an active process where people can be involved and get feedback. So that way, the experience and the final product of the full book will be that much better.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, putting the whole thing together, the full version.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Colin, why don't we take a step back and then tell the story of what led up to this project? I'm really curious. Like, tell us more about Sylvan Bookworks and how in the world did you get into binding books?
first book I did was a book about Russian saints during the Russian Revolution and in the years after that. A lot of the books that were made in Russia during the communist era were
Hmm.
done as samizdat. Like they
Ah,
were made by hand by people, and because publishing was restricted of particularly
hmm,
religious material and other things that would be problematic
hmm.
uh, to the regime. And so I got the idea that if I was going to make a book like that, I would do it in that style. So I I made a little rule for myself that I wouldn't use any materials beside what I actually had in the house at the time. Um, so basically,
Interesting.
the paper I printed it on is just regular printer paper. Printed it out and just used cardboard that I had like from boxes or the back of calendars and things like that, and used Elmer's glue, regular sewing thread, and kind of put together about a 600-page book,
Wow.
all by hand, using just materials I had, in the house. So
Huh.
there's, from a bookbinding point of view, just about everything about like, or like a lot of technical things about this book are just like wrong. Like the grain of the paper, runs the wrong way because on regular, copy paper, the grain of the paper is long,
Ah.
but you can put it together, and make it work. Um, to when Once I had the stack of paper to trim the edges, I actually just actually did it on a table saw instead
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
instead of a regular paper cutter. The outside of the book is brown paper, and then I just print it on. I mean, these days, use the regular laser printer at home, but but which they wouldn't have had at that. It wasn't really a historical recreation of anything, but it was just I just wanted to see what it was like to actually just make a book from scratch.
Hmm.
Um, starting with nothing, and
Yeah.
in that it kind of fit with the content of the book, like
Yeah.
the style and the way I put it together, um, kind of was related to the content.
Mm. So it's almost like a recreation of the the restrictions or the challenges that they would have experienced for the people that originally produced the book.
Right, yeah. I mean,
Wow.
the book was written. This actual book was written later, but in the time, yeah, yeah, it was written about the times when books would have been made
Mm.
by hand.
Wow.
Um,
Fascinating.
in those situations. So that got me thinking about um, making books where the um, making putting a little bit more thought into how the book is put together in relation to its content. Um,
Mhm. So
so
that got the process started for you then.
yeah, yeah. The rather than just making have every book, that I mean, there's some standards, like using quality paper and just all the basic components of a book, getting them all together, properly. I mean, that's a good thing. But I wanted to make books that took took things just a little bit farther, and
Mhm.
where this actual structure of the book um, reflected its contents, was
Mm.
connected a little bit more.
Okay.
Um, so I, I practiced and figured out, the more correct ways of doing things.
Mhm.
Got together better, some equipment and some better materials and that kind of thing. And so the first kind of project I did, um, where using proper materials
Mhm.
and that sort of thing, was this Cosmic Casmus book by written by Cormac Jones,
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
the editor of the Symbolic World.
Hmm.
And the content of this book, he talks about the chiastic structures,
Hmm.
which you can you can read about. It's basically how uh, let's see, a quick
Colin,
way of
it's okay. We can.
you can, yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I
sorry.
feel like that is an episode unto itself. And I
Yeah.
think it's about a due for an episode talking about the chiastic structure and cosmic chiastic. But this actually is the part of the story where I enter in because I remember being a part of the forums and the discussions going back and forth of like, oh my goodness, what a great article that was published on Symbolic World. And this
Hmm.
is amongst the other collaborators and contributors to
Hmm.
Symbolic World articles. And and then you said, "Oh yeah, the way that you're talking about that reminds me of how pages are bound in a book." And then you could start
Hmm.
seeing these like little seeds of ideas form, one
Hmm.
conversation entry at a time. And then suddenly, the next thing I knew that you were taking a very limited amount of orders, 12 orders. And I said,
Hmm.
"Oh my gosh, sign me up. You don't have to tell me the price. Like, I'll pay it, I'll take a
Hmm.
side gig. I don't care." Uh, so what was that like for you during that process when things started kind of like coming together and this idea of taking this article that really just lived virtually and bringing it to life in a book?
Like, I could see how you kind of have to talk about the structure to really understand how like a pages and how they're folded and how they fit together into a book
Hmm.
structure reflects the chiastic structure, like that idea.
Mhm.
And so I kind of had the idea for the structure, and then had to lay it out nicely, like in a way that I that I thought was really kind of helped the reader understand the text, which to someone who's not familiar with it, it might be good if they could have a little bit of breathing room as they were reading,
Mm.
um, and to kind of understand, piece by piece, and as he builds, um, his um, work about the cosmic Casmus. So I laid out the text, and it went back and forth with with Cormac because he was particular
Mhm.
and and, has very very good ideas, and it was that part was a lot more work than I expected.
Mhm.
Um, but I finally got it worked out, so everything was right.
Mhm.
And then for the cover, I had the idea for the cover,
Yeah.
and I asked David Flores, a symbolic world artist,
Mhm.
to do the cross, and then in the I don't know if you could see that
Yeah,
the
we can see
yeah
it.
the cover is several layers thick, and the cross that's at the is at the deepest part of it.
Mhm.
Uh, so
Then you have
that's
another
how
layer above that that's like a shiny gold, and then above
it's
that you
gold,
have
and then
the gray
the
cover.
cloth. Yeah, the gray cloth on the outside.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Really. So whenever I got my copy, Colin, yep, see, here's mine, ready to go.
Yeah. Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
this impacted me more than I can say, more than I've communicated with others until this point. Because I read the article online and you scroll down, you read it, and it felt like a content. It was like direct content. It was like, yeah, this is great. I'm learning a lot. Uh, but then once I received the book, it became so much more. It was like an experience. It was similar to like sitting down, buying tickets and sitting down in a theater and watching a play or something. It was, I'm not joking. It was like that where I could sit down. I had a good cup of tea. I had my, reading chair. I had my good lamplight, and it became this whole ritual about sitting down and
Hmm.
reading this book. So for my friends' work to come out and then to see, your touch on it, obviously the author Cormac's, but then also David Flores and his artwork, and just to see
Hmm.
my friends in it, it just became this very
Hmm.
manifold process. So for me, it was like I get to enjoy this. There's communion in part of it, in friendship, and then like the pages, and it's just a work of art. Like, so I got to read the pages, uh, view it, flip it, feel it. It was like it's such a big difference for me to go from reading something virtually on a screen or tablet or something to
Hmm.
actually it being a physical thing, holding it and flipping it, smelling it. It just changed my world. And that was like, I, I feel like I need to do this. I feel like if ever I was going to, publish anything or turn it into a book, it would have to be through Sylvan Bookworks and Colin. You mentioned David Flores. Is that David Flores artwork in the background? I was just curious.
Yes, yes, it is.
All right.
Yes.
Awesome.
Hmm.
Let's see.
There's
Which ones are those? It's hard to make out.
um, let's see, the one over there is Saint Michael, as angel of the apocalypse,
Oh, yes.
archangel of
Nice.
the apocalypse, and then the other that one is the burning bush.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
love it because he has that feature of, the black and white, but then the red, occasional
Hmm.
gold or bronze. Yeah, shout
Hmm.
out to David. Go check out his work. It's just phenomenal. So then,
Yes.
yeah, so so we're getting closer. So how is this leading up to Sylvan Bookworks creation of
Well,
your company?
well, it's in its very early stages. I would like to in the future do lots of more small editions of books like this. Um, and I'm working like right now to kind of build up to that. I'm doing like a lot of little like one-off kind of projects, on my own. I have a Substack where I write little articles, small articles, and then with pictures of books I've made, and then I relate them to other, like books that have like have a lot of older books. Um, and I kind of put them in context with the ones I'm making now.
Yeah,
Um,
your Substack articles are beautiful because you're taking these high quality pictures of the books themselves and showing the process of putting it together.
one source of inspiration are the books that they talked about on the Universal History series.
Ah, with
With
Richard Rowland and Jonathan
Richard Roll,
Peugeot.
yeah,
Awesome.
yes,
Just had
yes,
Richard on, so that's apropos.
yes, yes, and like his with him talking about
Oh
Beowulf,
yeah.
um, but I uh, I got the idea to make this book,
Oh,
um,
that's awesome.
which is like swords. Various swords are in important images in that work. So I made a little sword. I won't pull it out, but it does come out. It's a real. I got
It's a
some
sword.
steel ones.
It's not like
Yeah.
an image of a sword, it's an actual little sword.
No, it is actually a little sword. Like
You are kidding me. Oh my gosh, look at that. So the
mhm,
sword comes out from the cover of the book
yeah,
and you can nest it back into the cover.
yeah, magnet.
Wow. Awesome.
But yeah. So that was that was what I did there. Uh,
Awesome. My inner child is just beyond elated.
mhm.
Reminds me of like a like action figure sword or something.
Yeah, but basically yeah, it is.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
and let's see. And another important work that they talked about in that series is Alexander the Great, and that was one of the most recent ones I did. This
Oh
one was
yeah, look at
a
that.
little more ambitious. Um, but
What?
this is like the
Oh my
I made
gosh,
that
that's crazy.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I made that out of brass and
Oh
put that into the
man.
cover.
And you got it to wrap around back cover to the front cover.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That is triumphant. I just love it.
yeah, I like kind of like doing pushing the idea with of things you could do with a book, but still keeping it practical. I mean,
Mhm.
don't go don't get too out of hand and making a book that becomes unusable because of its design.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
like with the sword and with this, it's still within the the profile of the book. Still fits on a shelf easily. It's not doesn't
mhm.
become just an art object. It's still a readable book.
Oh, right. So you're trying to like balance that tension of like practicality of a readable book with
Yeah.
a piece of art that you're like too afraid to touch.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Any of the books that I'm making are made to be handled and read.
Mm. It reminds me a lot of my
Yeah.
dad. My dad likes to restore old Datsuns, like the
Oh,
pre-smog era, so like early 70s, late 60s.
yeah. Yeah.
But his goal is to make sure that they're still drivable, like you're not afraid to actually take it out onto the road. And so
Right.
it changes it influences the decisions that he makes in his restorations.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. They're not just to look at. It's a functional book. Um,
Mhm.
and want to see some more? Is that
Oh yeah.
or
Yeah,
so?
let's look at a few more.
Let's see. I did the life of Moses. Um,
Oh,
uh, Gregor of Nyssa,
nice.
and yeah, so pretty much a little more straightforward one. Into the cover, I
Yeah.
like I like cutting into the cover, giving it a little dimension, but
Yes. Kind of
but
draws
still,
you in. It's like a
yeah,
window.
still a functional cover. Um, so and that's a young looking Moses from from the church. Let's see, one the in Ravenna,
Hmm.
a very early image.
Beautiful.
and this is Saint Sylvan the Athonite,
Mm,
the book by put together by Saint Sophrony.
beautiful. So you have a couple colors on this cover.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Nice.
that's inset with a different. That's actually a different piece of board
Oh,
there.
I love how
Yep.
experimental it is, how you're just kind of testing the boundaries. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And see one that's kind a little bit related to an earlier project I did, outside of bookmaking. Um, was is my Dionysius de Areopagite
Mm,
complete works.
beautiful. In like
Um,
a royal blue.
yes, and there's
Beautiful.
actually like little beads on gold.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. I see the beads. Okay, so there's an image, but then there's actual beads on top of that. That's
And
beautiful.
that was
Now, no, that's not the first time that you worked with beads, right? Because I remember one of the first things I saw being introduced to your work was boy, sorry for the lack of terms, but a stump that you turned into a piece of the most mind-blowing. I want to call it a piece of art, but there's also like a high level of math involved where you're showing images around a round stump with
yeah.
beads telling the different seasons, and each bead corresponds to certain numbers of the seasons and the number of days in the year. And it just like
Hmm.
blew my mind. I don't know. Do you
Hmm.
have that around? Could you maybe show that
Yeah.
off too?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember seeing it. I was just like, there's no way. There's no way he could pull it off. Oh, yeah, there we go. Look at
Hmm.
that.
Hmm. How I made this one is I got a really long piece of silk thread, and I started putting tiny beads on it in such a way that as they wrapped around the one continuous bead, as it came around, the beads would line up so to create a picture. Like this is wrapped around,
Yeah.
and and I kind of wanted it to be connected to the days in a lifetime. Um, so I eat there's 365 beads uh, that that are needed to go around once, like in a circumference, and
Ah,
then goes around 70 times.
oh.
Um,
So
but
saying
on
average lifespan of 70 years, let's say.
the three score 10, and plus I added a little bit more at the beginning, like maybe 9 months for a,
Oh,
and then
you are kidding me.
yeah, and maybe
That's
extra
part of the
43
life.
days.
That's right.
Yeah, and these little I don't know how well they
Yeah.
show up, but
It's coming through, man. It looks
coming
great.
up from that fire, there's sparks,
Oh my
and
gosh. How'd you
and
do
those would
that?
be days of Pascha through the
Oh,
years. I don't
oh my gosh. I don't know. You know what this reminds me of? The legend of Dostoevsky's brother Karamazov, that he wrote that in just one go, one pass. He just wrote it
know.
out. And that's, like talk about
Wow.
nonlinear narrate. Like, how do you have so many plots that are woven together happening at the same time and, you know, things being, set up and then paid off like 400 pages later? How is that even
Mhm.
possible? This reminds me of that. Like, how did you do that?
Well, I just sat down and did it, and until it worked.
Until it worked.
But yeah, I mean, I did figured out the circumference, but then within that, I mean, you can get it so it works out right on paper. But
Mhm,
then when you actually are working with the materials, which
mhm.
that precise,
Mm,
you have to massage it and make it work. And
man.
yeah,
So I'm curious, how many of these books or art pieces are you going to be able to bring to Florida?
well, I'll be able to bring a good number of these books. Um, let's see. I'm not sure if the what the TSA is going to think about this,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. We'll see
might
about
have
the
to.
sword. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
but
don't know about that
yeah,
one. I
yeah.
well, true story. Whenever like I know this is like 10 years ago now, but when I came back from Costa Rica, from living there and
Mhm.
kind of living in the I don't know agricultural jungle area, I was able to somehow bring back a 20-inch machete in my suitcase,
Wow.
and they didn't stop me. They didn't bring it up. Like I don't know how I did it. But I was young and I didn't even think twice of it. I was like, of course, why wouldn't I bring back my machete? I was
Right, right.
definitely a campesino at the time, so I was like, what's a person without their machete? Come on.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
So we'll see.
Um,
So the books,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Good. To bring the books. I don't think I'll be able to bring the that piece that
Wait, have you
the
named it yet? Because I remember the video that I watched, and I'll link to this too. I don't description or comment
it was
somewhere
called
nearby.
something I made. I think is all.
Yes, that's something I made. So
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I think that
So
there's for what it is, that title I think falls just a little bit short, maybe for that.
yeah, yeah. I'll give it some more thought.
Okay, okay. All right. And then so getting back to the books and Sylvan Bookworks. So I saw recently you also did one on Seraphim Rose
Oh yes,
and the
yes.
I want to say it was like the crimson or the red cover.
Yeah, let
You
me.
have that one nearby too. Also, where are you sitting in? Is this where the magic happens?
Yeah, this is my little my book room. This is where I do a lot of the work.
Awesome.
Hmm.
Thank you for
Oh, oh,
inviting us into your secret lair. This is great.
yes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one. Beautiful.
Hmm.
Oh, I just love that color.
Yeah. This is it.
Oh, hey,
Orthodoxy
there's
religion
David
in the
Flores
future.
again.
Yeah.
Recognize that
Yeah.
one?
It looks familiar.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Hmm. Hmm.
Of course, yeah, that's his features, having that red or crimson in there.
Yes. And I'm still experimenting with that one. So there's another version of it.
Ah, okay.
Um, I just instead of the silver, I went with the black for the
Oh, okay.
lettering. But they're still experimenting.
Yeah, it has more of a matte. The other
Yeah.
one kind of shines through. You can see it on the webcam.
Hmm.
Interesting. Gorgeous. So this is leading up to the most recent project, the Arrival project, because it was about this point where I started seeing, oh, Seraphim Rose, which is someone who has commentary on aliens and kind of the deeper meaning of what's happening there. And
Hmm.
so there started to be these indicators of like, or reminders for me of like, hey, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to reach out to Colin to see if he wants to collaborate with the book project.
Hmm.
And so
Yes.
that's when I said, "Hey, Colin, what do you think about this? I have this book that I'm going to be writing over the course of this year. I already published one of the articles on Exodus and Arrival, and I just kind of laid it out for you. And then, what was that like when you got that email, read through it?
I started thinking of what would make what would the how would this book reflect that like the structure of this book, how would it reflect the content?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and I started and I actually as you know, I actually hadn't seen the movie yet
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah, that
Um,
was funny because it was like, oh yeah, this sounds great, Colin wrote. Really interesting, very intriguing. Uh, just one little thing. I haven't really watched the movie yet. I
I
was
mean,
like,
I enjoyed
oh, okay,
the
well,
article, but that sounded interesting. So I actually read the book that it was the short story that it was based on
by Ted
first.
Chiang. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and I really liked that. I found that to be really interesting, and then I watched the film, and it was from the film where I got the idea, like for like the image, like the of the glass in
Hmm.
yeah surrounded like in the dark
Yes.
and the
Yeah.
and the the um the aliens, coming through the fog and being kind of
Yep.
mysterious.
Yes, very mysterious,
Yeah.
very much like the mysterious tremendum, like this numinous figure of like you're terrified, but you're so awe-struck and you're almost like drawn to it in wonder. And yeah, then definitely like the smoke, the clouds, the ink, it's like definitely creates like this veil of you're not quite sure what you're seeing, maybe what layer
Hmm.
of depth you're seeing.
Hmm.
And then it was just really beautiful to see this process of kind of going back and forth and saying like, well, what
Hmm.
about this? What about that? Okay, I finally watched the movie. Now I have all these other ideas. And then you
Hmm.
came up with having that like that translucent kind of like you can see through it, but it kind of makes things a
Hmm.
little bit out of
Yeah,
resolution.
it's like the smoke and the fog.
Yes. And so
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, like what a great representation of being inside the shell of the heptapod's vessel, and then being able to see the screen, right? This meeting room where they reveal certain words, and then humans reveal or really humans reveal what they have, and then the aliens reveal what they have, and they do these back and forth and come together in this meeting place. And so I think you really captured it in the cover of the book,
Hmm.
and then the
And
color of the book too.
and the detail. Well, speaking of color, you had the idea of the orange.
Oh, yes, you included the orange.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I actually I had to took a little bit of tracking down, but I found the right orange to do the hot foil
Oh,
stamping in the orange.
yes, that's perfect. So we have the garments of skin right there at the bottom. It's perfect.
Right.
So the
Yes.
orange suit just discarded. Yes.
Hmm.
Okay. And then we have like a dark black charcoal for the cover of the book.
Yeah, yeah, it's black. Just like the darkness. I guess in the film, I guess the outer shell probably had a little more color to it, but
Mhm.
the but inside, like where the glass was is if you've seen the film,
Yeah.
this this should make sense.
Yes. It's like a meteorite black. It's like
Hmm.
very dark, not quite a pure like night sky dark, but it's more of like the darkest charcoal that you can think of.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
Oh man, that's beautiful. And then you have the logogram on top of that other layer.
yes, yes. Now
Nice.
the logogram I chose for that, I don't know if we want to get into that a little bit. I mean, but it's the one for in the film. It's uncertain whether it means weapon or tool. And I thought
Right.
that was an interesting,
Yeah, yeah.
and they weren't sure as in the film
Yeah, it's the
in the,
perfect
in,
one
in
for
the story.
right there. It's just great.
Yes, but yeah, I enjoyed putting this one together, and yeah, look forward to doing the full version. This is just one chapter right here.
Yeah. So as far as the publication goes, this is the prototype that Colin's holding up. We down the road, once the rest of the chapters are written and we're ready to publish the full book, we'll be publishing 12 copies of the full book. And that one will probably be a full release, Kickstarter, the like. And that way people could buy this deluxe edition that is hand bound with Colin. So people could have one of 12, which of course, if you watch the film, is part of the
Mhm.
climax of that story is realizing that
Mhm.
they're one of 12. And so you get a copy of this book. And what's cool too is that it's a big part of the film too is that it's not just a cerebral knowledge. It's just not this acquisition of, learning the language and then that's it. The real story is in the embodiment. Of course, the main character is not Louise necessarily. You could say she's the protagonist, but the main point is her daughter. It's the embodiment. It's the family. It's I guess you can say it the incarnated solution to being able to, carry this throughout time. And so I'm just so excited that this project is coming together and that we can capture some of that experience and really this really great message that the story, the film and the book are conveying of and having this physical thing that's a work of art, that's beauty. Because the thing that caught me about Arrival so much was that it was its beauty. It wasn't that it had these really cool formulas and mathematics and empirical, you know, provocations, which it does, and that's great. And it wasn't just like the linguistics of it and the study of language or maybe the sci-fi elements, because it has some really unique approaches to doing sci-fi. All of that's great, but what really drew me was the beauty, that it was a work of art. And I felt like I was part of something that was drawing me deeper and higher. And I'm just so excited that we get to contribute to helping people understand that process in the form of these books.
Yes, I I'm really happy to be a part of it,
Yeah.
and with working with you and with other people from the symbolic world.
Hmm.
It's been good to collaborate,
Hmm.
um, and looking forward to meeting a lot of you in person,
Yep.
meeting you in person, and
Absolutely. Yeah. Can't wait. Yeah. So
yeah.
the book that we have right now is the first chapter on Exodus. If people are interested in getting a copy, feel free to reach out to me. Subscribe to Colin's newsletter because he's going to be publishing more about this. But then I'll be giving more announcements too and giving updates to the Arrival project. If people are interested in, if they just can't wait a year until like the full book release, perhaps they'd be interested in purchasing this one and being able to get the early editions of these books. So maybe what we could do is run like a 1 of 12 for this Exodus run. And then if people are interested, reach out to me and we'll go from there. If there's enough interest, then Colin and I will have a discussion again and see what we can do.
Yeah, work something out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Colin, what would you say is the future of Sylvan Bookworks? What's ahead?
Just more projects like this, and maybe coming up with. Yeah, I have ideas for reprinting like old texts, like
Oh,
and
yeah.
things that are maybe over a century or old, century old that haven't been printed in a long time.
Mm,
There's some interesting things like in the public domain that I could put together
mm,
that people would
interesting.
find interesting, and as well as working with other authors and who would be interested in having small editions of their book made like this.
Hmm.
Um, and maybe in the future it can kind of scale up from the editions of 12 to larger numbers, which would be possible. At this point, still at the early stages and working on scaling up.
That's
Uh,
great to hear. Yeah, I look forward to the growth of Sylvan Bookworks. It's
yeah,
off to a great start. I'm really excited with all you've done.
yeah, thank you, thank you.
All right, Colin. Well, I suppose that's a good place to stop, and we can pick it up back in Florida.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. Okay.
Hey, Colin. Well, I thank you so much for coming on, and look forward to connecting with you real soon.
Yeah, sounds good. We're really, really glad we could do this. Thanks.
Yep.